My name is Zach Pasty. We are currently in what could be a modern civil war. We're looking at what, again, could be the fall of an empire. Society is almost at a collapse. The political division is the highest it's ever been. Neither side, from the Democratic or the Republican Party, can seem to agree or collaborate on anything. And it has me wondering, how did this happen? How did we get here? Now, the biggest thing that you want to look at is the two-party agenda. Way back when the country was first founded, it was founded amongst multiple parties. You had the Whig Party, what was the Democratic Republican Party, as well as a ton of other parties. In fact, in 1824, there were 4 presidential candidates that were competing against each other. Now, on an election year basis, we only have 2 that actually have a strong chance of winning, with third parties that are seen as a waste of a vote. Now, one of the things that I found most interesting is how these 2 parties feed off of that energy, feed off of their campaigns. And I have a video I want to show you that explains that.
Of Americans see the other side as evil or bad. When we're in a world where we're unwilling to talk to the other side, it's impossible to have the kind of critical, policy-focused discourse that is necessary for democracy to function. We're able to identify the connection between the attitudes of elected officials and the attitudes of American citizens because not only do we have survey data, but we're pulling in everything that American elected officials say. We have their press releases, their newsletters, and their social media posts. We analyze what politicians say by using highly customized AI tools. We're interested in, are they talking about policy, talking about the needs of their constituents, or are they engaging in personal attacks? And when we look at that, we can identify a clear pattern. When leads become more negative, citizens become more negative. Take a look at this. Conflict entrepreneurs are individuals who built their personality around creating political division. By focusing on conflict, they have abandoned their duties as representatives. They don't focus on policy, they don't introduce legislation, and our research suggests these messages cause the American public to increase their level of polarization.
So the biggest thing that we need to look at is fear-mongering. Now, not only do the 2 parties do this, but you'll see it from news sources like CNN and Fox News, as well as pretty much any other trusted news source that's on television today. But not only that, you're going to see it through third parties like the Daily Wire, as well as just other online sources that pretend to have information but have significantly less journalistic integrity than something like CNN and Fox News, which is more just looking to sensationalize something that is true, but radicalize it in a way that enrages its audience, whereas some of these third parties will lie. Lobbying is another huge issue that our politicians are doing at the moment. Most politicians are paid millions upon millions of dollars to avoid changing policies because it would affect a company or an industry. The gas and oil industry is going to be one of the hugest ones that we're looking at the moment, which is preventing it from having things like green deals, shutting down factories, and preventing global warming from happening at a faster rate than what it already is. Policies are also enacted based off of what companies want. So it's not just policies like that. You'll see that Disney has had sway with copyright law as far back as 1976, as well as multiple other companies since then that have continued to just harass politicians until they refuse to change or change something in favor of that company. The other thing that you need to look at with our politicians is that they're no longer seen for their policies, their political values, but seen for their personality. People like Donald Trump, Barack Obama, and Ron DeSantis are all public figures and seen as celebrities, more so than as what I would argue politicians are. It's more about creating an agenda or an attitude, such as Barack Obama's hope and change campaigns, and Trump's overall personality being a TV celebrity as far back as the 90s to now being was one of the presidents of the United States. They're looking for ways to discredit their opponents in bad faith arguments, and make them look bad from a personality standpoint rather than shutting down their policies based off of factual evidence. So the other thing that we need to be aware of is that if you're online and if you're looking at articles are pushed to you on a level where if you agree with one particular policy, you're going to find another article and another article that support that policy until you're on one side of the political spectrum or on the other. And there's not really much of an in-between at this point. Due to technology being able to hear everything you say and hear your opinions, it continues to have an algorithm that pushes what you believe to be true already, and then it pushes you to have more radicalized versions of those opinions, whether intentional or not. That is what's happening. This leads to things like QAnon, which is an online Discord or discourse that people would go on to create conspiracy theories or already talk about conspiracy theories that were pre-existing. But this can happen in Instagram, on Reels, or in posts, as well as Reddit and forums and such. So people just continue to follow and join these until they don't really know what is true, and they only are seeing what they want to see. And this has created the rise of the grifter. So many people and celebrities are taking this concept and they're expanding upon it by creating podcasts, Twitch streams, YouTube videos that essentially just push for that radicalization and are getting an engaged audience due to rage. And a lot of the times that rage is against the other side. So that's why you're seeing people like Hassan Piker, Ben Shapiro, Alex Jones, Steven Crowder, Matt Walsh, as well as many others who are continuously given a voice and a platform by spreading false information and just enraging their audiences. So they over-exaggerate policies or stories to sensationalize it even further than what Fox News and CNN are doing. What happens if this continues? It's a question that a lot of us are asking that's on our minds right now. And I think most people are in agreement that we are going to see more violence in the next couple of years or in the foreseeable future than what we've seen in the past 20 years of political debate. There's going to be events similar to January 6th. Now, whether you like it or not, Donald Trump factually has ties to the incitement of that act of violence, essentially calling for, Mike Pence to die and all sorts of other heinous crimes. But you're going to see that both sides are going to have a similar reaction. You're going to see more violence from the Democratic Party or from left-leaning people as well as right-leaning people, and it could escalate into potential war by the end of it, which would see states like California, Texas, Florida, and New York, which are all super political and politically leaning in one way, specifically with New York being mostly Democrat and California being mostly Democrat, as well as Florida and Texas being mostly Republican. You'll see a secession from the states, and again, an ongoing civil war. And more of these politically charged states, including Utah, which is leaning more Republican at the moment, you'll find that they're going to take sides. Now you're asking yourself, where do we go from here? There's a lot of things that I've touched on today that make it seem like it's hopeless, but there's plenty that we as a society could do to contain some of this and to actually please citizens of the United States. And the biggest thing that we need to do is have more active third-party political campaigns. It shouldn't be seen as throwing your vote away. Third-party politicians need to be in a place of power, and society needs to change its stance on it and vote for people who aren't supporting the GOP or the Democratic Party. This is going to be a way to monitor the Republican Party and the Democratic Party in a sense that the third party can come in and kind of engage with both sides and create something that's going to be better for everybody. We also need to encourage civil discussion with not only our politicians, but with us at home. When you're arguing with your uncle or your dad or your spouse about these political debates, belittling them isn't going to sway them to where you're coming from. It actually does the opposite and encourages them to act more and more into their political opinions that could be considered factually just wrong or incorrect. We also need to not do reactionary politics. Again, no belittling people, and have respect for your opponent, because if you don't, you're going to see more and more violence. But our politicians need to do this especially because they are the leaders and they're going to set an example. Regulation for lobbyists needs to be way more controlled. You cannot have companies come in and demand certain laws not be changed or be changed in their favor, and they need to be reprimanded for doing so. Politicians need to be kept in check and not have any engagement with these companies or any lobbyists in any form, and not accepting the millions upon millions of dollars that they're currently making off of those. These are all big, high concepts, but there's some things that you can do in your own daily activities or even just during election years that'll help our society get better. You need to be doing your own independent research, which we beg that you do independent research. Don't trust all sources. Continue to research it. Use trusted sources, as well as just continue to find more and more articles and data that prove whatever it is that you believe in to be right. And if it's not, then it's time to reevaluate that policy that you believe in. You need to continue debate and form your own opinions based off of those debates by keeping an open mind and discussing with people who may not agree with you. But independent research goes a long way. And voting, that's where you take that independent research and make a conscious decision to vote for somebody who's going to enact the best policies. The election year is coming up in the next couple of days. We're going to see who's going to be president of the United States for the next 4 years. Your vote counts. Vote for the people in office that you want to see make the change. They're going to represent what you want to see. I want to end this by talking about what Abraham Lincoln said, during the first American Civil War, and hopefully the last. A house divided against itself cannot stand. If we continue to go the way that we are going, America could cease to exist.